To put it very bluntly, there are far too many marriages failing in this country and throughout the world, and this is causing extreme damage to our society. Now, I'm sure the different faiths have different rates of breakdown. I certainly know that unfortunately, the Christian faith is no better than the secular people in terms of their marriage breakdown. I really hope that the other faiths are doing much better. But generally, the average breakdown rate in Great Britain is 42% of all marriages over 30 years, or 14%, or 1 in 7 in the first 5 years. So young people get together, they have a vision, they have a heart, they have a hope that they can live together in harmony, build a family, enjoy being with each other, and then 1 in 7 have broken up already after 5 years. And social scientists have been tackling this problem for some time and developing some programs I'd just like to very briefly introduce you to, which seek to tackle this problem. Now, whether they all apply to all of the different faith groups is something I'll be really fascinated to find out. This has been spearheaded, this work, by the Christians, and so these are primarily, were originally, if you say, Christian programs. Okay, if you have a look at I've tried to put something up there for you on the screen, but just in case it didn't work, I printed it out for myself as well. What I'm going to be talking about very briefly is marriage, or married versus single, happiness or unhappiness, intergenerational effect on children, cost to society, and then the couple relationship education programs. Now, why do I mention single people? We're talking about marriage. Well, I came across an amazing statistic the other day that 48% of all of the UK's adult population in 2005 was single. Isn't that interesting? That includes people who haven't married yet, cohabitees, people who aren't married, live together, and people who have divorced. So there's an awful lot of single people out there. But there's a huge body of knowledge and understanding and research that says that married people are happier, healthier, better off financially than single people. This is a statistic. There's something about being joined together, says Maggie Gallagher from America, a researcher. Another human being with another human being of the opposite sex, that can actually save our lives, she says. This is a powerful evidence, not just that marriage is important to society, but that human beings are in some basic sense made to be married. That was number 2. Sorry, can you follow me down? That's right. So let's talk about happiness and unhappiness. Basically, here are some statistics for you. Health. Being married is like giving up 20 cigarettes a day. Now, if you are single and also smoking 20 cigarettes a day, you're in trouble. In the UK, divorced men between 20 and 60 have a 70 to 100% higher mortality rate. Divorced men. Divorced women over 25 or so have a 35 to 55% higher mortality rate. People who are divorced die quicker. And being a cohabitee is no different to being a single person. So there's no escaping it. I know my dear brother Rahim loves these statistics. Divorced fathers are far more likely to engage in risky behavior like drugs, alcohol, and, excuse me for this horrible phrase, unsafe sex. That's health. So it's a very healthy thing to be happily married. I recommend it. I've been doing it for 30 years. My dear wife's here somewhere in the audience. Given me 3 wonderful daughters and 2 wonderful grandchildren. Counting. Wealth. Married men earn a wage premium that rises from 10% to 40% over time in almost all developed countries. So married people are wealthier. Also, married people in their 50s and 60s have roughly twice the financial assets of divorcees and widows and unmarried people. Now, this is not to say that we're saying something nasty or horrible or, negative towards people who've divorced and so on. This is not what we're saying at all. We're just saying it's very sad that these situations came about, and this is how life is panning out for them. In terms of safety, let's go to safety. Married people are far safer to be around in terms of crime, domestic violence, and child abuse, and vice versa. Unmarried men and women, single, cohabiting, separated or divorced, more than twice as likely to experience domestic violence compared to married people. In terms of well-being, relationships are the key to the well-being. Experience of having a close relationship can be considered a fundamental need, providing feelings of connectedness. This brings us back to what dear Professor Ursula King was saying, and intimacy and support. People are more satisfied in their lives. Also, in terms of altruism, in terms of people giving out their hearts to others, married people have more freedom in their heart to do that. Now let's have a look at the intergenerational effect. Let's go down one more. Yet another, please. Children from broken homes face greater risks in all major areas of life. They're more likely to experience hardship, low income, unemployment, poverty, homelessness. This is hardly something that we want for our children. They are more likely to experience problems to do with well-being, health, crime, 9 times more likely to become young offenders if they're from a broken home, although there are some amazing single women and men out there raising single parents. We must remember that. But this is a statistical analysis. So, 70% of all young offenders come from broken homes, and they're more likely to avoid marriage. So there's an intergenerational effect here, which is truly tragic. Children to single-parent households are twice as likely to be unhappy. That's the next phase here. Have lower self-esteem and have mental problems. So, how much does that cost society? The next thing you might be able to see, this is actually an analysis done by the Relationship Foundation. This is the original book. It's called When Relationships Go Right, Enabling Thriving Lives. And you turn it over like this. When relationships go wrong, the cost to human society of family failure. £37 billion a year is the cost to British society of family breakdown. It's really rather unnecessary. If we tried hard, we could cut that by half. Can you imagine having that kind of money to spend on good social projects? That's what we're interested in UPF. So let's talk about couple relationship education. Basically, back in the late 70s, actually starting in 1965 in Spain of all places, back in the late 70s, Christian sociologists began to develop couple relationship education programs because they realized that the teachings of the faith were excellent and necessary to give the values, but they did not give the tools. They did not guide people before they got married about marriage. It's like putting someone in a car and assuming that they'll know how to brake and they'll steer and they'll just get on with it, common sense thing. And of course, that is rather dangerous. That's why you take driving lessons. So people should take marriage lessons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are skills that can be learned. And these help to stop the catastrophic breakdown. They don't stop it completely. They may stop 30 to 50 or even 60% of breakdown. But that's a massive improvement. So why do only 8% of couples in Britain thinking of marrying prepare for marriage formally? Whereas it's 30 to 40% in America, in Australia, and in Norway. The reason why is because those last 3 countries take it seriously, and our country doesn't. Our country takes parenting very seriously. We spend 6,000 times as much money, or maybe 4,000 times as much money, on parenting as we do on preparing couples to marry. But if the couples are not in harmony, how's the parenting going to help them? There's something else to argue about. So we need to have successful completion of couple relationship education courses. And very quickly, I'd just like to explain to you what that means, because it sounds like gobbledygook. There are things called psychometric inventories. This is one of them. Prepare, enrich. This is a typical practitioner report. I won't go through the whole thing, we'll be here all night. But basically, couples sit down and they answer about 185 questions separately, the man and the woman, ideally while they're still courting. These questions get sent off to a computer. The computer compares the questions and sends back such a report which explains the strengths and the weaknesses of that couple. Shall we go to the next slide? Now, here's a typical one. One of the